Ask 10 Hindus the same question, you'll get 10 completely different answers. What is God? How should you live? What is right? What is wrong? You'll see no one is agreeing. Sometimes even opposite opinions. And from the outside, it looks confusing, almost like there is no structure, no clear rule book, no single authority, no fixed way. So people ask, is this even a proper religion? But what if that's the whole point? What if it was never meant to make everyone think the same? See, most systems in the world are built on agreement. One truth, one path, one way to believe. You follow it, you belong. You question it, you're outside. Simple. But here, it doesn't work like that. Because this was never built as a belief system. It was built as a way of seeking. In this land, you were not told what truth is. You were pushed to find it. Not through fear, not through obedience, but through experience. That's a very different approach. And you can actually see this in everyday life. In one house, your grandparents follow rituals strictly. Your parents follow some of it. You question most of it. Your younger sibling might follow all of it again. All of you are still part of the same space. No one gets thrown out. No one says you don't belong anymore. That's not normal in most belief systems. Think about it. One person sits in a temple, prays, feels something deep. For him, that is the truth. Another sits in silence, meditates, goes inward, and finds truth there. Another questions everything, even rejects God, and still searches for meaning. And strangely, all of them still belong, because the focus was never on belief, it was on experience. If something is real, you should be able to feel it, not just repeat it. That's why you'll see something unusual here. Someone worships an idol, someone worships a tree, someone worships energy, someone doesn't worship at all, and yet they are part of the same space. From the outside, it looks like contradiction. From the inside, it's just different ways of seeking. Even in conversations, you'll notice this. Ask people about life. One says, just do your duty. Another says, follow your passion. Another says, detach from everything. And all of them sound different because they are speaking from their experience, not from a fixed script. And this changes everything, because the moment you remove a fixed path, you create freedom. And with freedom comes difference. That's why every Hindu you meet is slightly different. Not just in rituals, in thinking, in opinions, in worldview. Look at how people react to the same situation. One accepts it as fate. Another fights it. Another tries to understand it. Same situation, different responses. Because they are not programmed to respond in one way. Look at politics. Even within the same family, you'll see opposite views. One supports something strongly, another completely rejects it. Arguments happen. Debates happen. There is no single line that everyone follows, and it goes deeper than that. People don't just hold opinions, they question them too. They change their views, they argue, then rethink. Because the idea is not to stay fixed forever, but to understand better over time. That's why in this country, you'll never see complete uniform thinking. No matter how much influence there is, people will still disagree. They will still form their own opinions, because somewhere deep, independent thinking is normal. And it's not new. It has always been like this. Debates, arguments, philosophies, all existing together, not to eliminate each other, but to explore. Even historically, opposite ideas lived side by side. Some said everything is one. Some said everything is separate. Some focused on action, some on devotion. Different paths, same search, because the goal was never uniformity. It was understanding. And this is where people misunderstand. They think this diversity means confusion, that there is no clarity. But it's not confusion. It's openness to find the most suitable way to live and function together. See, where you're not forced to believe something, you're forced to think, to question, to observe. And slowly you build your own understanding. And when you build your own understanding, you also take responsibility for it. Don't just follow blindly, you choose, you live with it. That's why Hindus don't just inherit ideas, they interpret them. Even something like Bhagavad Gita, one reads it as devotion, another as responsibility, another as philosophy. Same text, different meanings. Because truth here is not packaged, it's explored. Even today, one voice talks about meditation, another about devotion, another about action. No one is canceling the other. No one is saying only this is correct. They are all pointing in different directions and saying, go see for yourself. And when you grow up in that kind of environment, you don't become a follower. You become someone who tries to understand. That's why even at a social level, people don't just accept things blindly. They question, sometimes quietly, sometimes openly. That's why you'll see if something feels wrong, people speak, even against their own system. Because loyalty here is not to an idea, it's to what feels true. And yes, this creates a mess, confusion sometimes, too many opinions, too many directions. But at the same time, it creates depth because you're not living on borrowed beliefs. You're trying to figure things out for yourself. And maybe that's why, even after thousands of years, this hasn't disappeared. It didn't survive because everyone agreed. It survived because people kept seeking and noticed something else. This seeking was never meant to be lonely. You had teachers, you had texts, you had communities, but none of them said, "Stop here." They all pointed further, beyond the ritual, beyond the word, beyond the idea, as if the entire tradition was designed to eventually make itself unnecessary and leave you with your own direct experience. That's rare. Most systems want followers. This one kept producing seekers, and a seeker never really stops. He finds something, lives with it for a while, and then moves again. He understands that truth is not a destination, it's a direction. So when you see two Hindus disagreeing, don't see it as a weakness, see it as a sign that thinking is still alive, that questioning still exists, that seeking hasn't stopped. And maybe that's the real strength. Not that everyone thinks the same, but that everyone is allowed to think differently. Because in the end, it was never about giving you one answer. It recognizes that every human has a different nature and gives each person the freedom to think, explore, and arrive at truth in their own way. If you like this, do subscribe. I'll see you again.